I'd like to bring in Dr. Ronesh Doraj, who is our SABC editor in our news research department, as well as Stembi Sostole, who's our social media specialist, just to get a sense of what this moment for them felt like. Doctor, for you, I don't know if you felt the same way, but we were all wondering, where is this headed? And then the next minute, we hear about how they want to better the lives of our people, and I quote. That in and itself is a little bit confusing.
Yeah. Well, bottom line, Bongiwe, is that remember these guys are politicians, and politicians always, they speak rhetoric. This is political rhetoric. Had they done something like this yesterday, then we would have said, there is a chance. But now the vote has been split. People have already started voting, and that vote has gone possibly to somebody else, possibly to Mzwandile Masina already, and probably to the other candidates. So those votes are wasted votes in essence. Those votes cannot be added now to the votes that Pule Mabe has probably accumulated thus far. So it is really a bit too late, and for me it's really political spectacle once again.
And which exactly something that someone will then ask themselves, because a lot of questions I'm sure our viewers tonight were asking, and you've just touched on it, but I'd like us to elaborate on it just a little bit more. Because someone who's wondering to say that, why are you withdrawing when the ballot paper has been drawn up? And then people would have voted, and someone is thinking, so are the votes that had gone to Mzwandile Masina now going to go to Pule Mabe? And you're saying that essentially these are not going to go there, because we know according to the electoral rules, your vote is your vote, it's going towards you. Now, are these wasted votes, and what then does it mean in the context of this race for the ANC?
No, absolutely, it's wasted votes 100%. Had they done this yesterday, before those ballots were actually printed, because remember initially these three names, Bajani Chauke, Pule Mabe and Masina, their names were on the original ballot because they got the provincial nominations for Treasurer General. Then a last name that was nominated from the floor yesterday was that of Gwen Ramakgopa. So her name would have been added to the ballot. So people who would have voted today for Masina, those are essentially wasted votes. They will not be added. They will not be going to Pule Mabe.
Which speaks then to the confusion.
Yeah,
that this, further adds and really compounding it. And Stembi, so interestingly enough, our social media segment was going to focus on Pule and his relationship with the media. Funny enough, then Stembi, so you hear him go on and go on and go on and go on for so long, and we're all wondering, get to the point already. And even Mzwandile Masina kind of hints and says, the media is wondering, you're torturing them. Where are you headed?
Definitely, Bongi, we were all shocked as we were preparing to go on air, and now we hear that he's going to be addressing the media. We were confused. Very interesting, like you said. Today's social media segment, we're focusing on Pule Mabe as the spokesperson of the ANC. Who is Pule Mabe, and what do the people think of him, his relationship with the media in between, and the different sentiments on social media with regard to that. And very interesting, I want us to focus on that before now we also look into maybe the future, how he would be conducting himself in between. One of the tweets that there we have on social media, they're simply saying, people are shocked that Pule Mabe is the spokesperson of the ANC. They are talking about him wherever he's going. They're saying whatever job that he might get in future, he shouldn't be the spokesperson. Pule Mabe should not have been the spokesperson at all. Next time, the party should appoint a better spokesperson. That's the sentiment there on social media, Bunge.
And with journalists?
And when it comes to journalists, at the same time, there's that sentiment, one of the journalists from Sowetan, expressing her views regard to Pule and now looking into the relationship that Pule has with the media, different sentiments there. And that's what we're simply saying. One thing about Pule, he will not miss an opportunity to have a monologue in between. And that's what we saw. That's what we saw. And that's how it's being described in between. And as you go on the Bongi then, an interesting analysis as well from Eusebius as well, trying to, as we put that tweet on air, on Eusebius Makaiser, where he spoke about Pule, where we all know that now he's describing him. And this is what he said. It is rare for Pule's grammatical pauses to be longer than his actual talking time. And then he further says, like the conference itself, his words are massively behind schedule now. Sarcastic, but describing him. As we move into another tweet that really describing Pule, the media going there, because he spends a lot of time engaging with the media. As we go to another tweet, it says, just like the ANC itself, Pule Mabi sounds and looks visibly and painfully tired. It is time to let them all rest, both imagine and embrace political life beyond this historical force in between. So you can then get the sense, the relationship that they have with the media.
And I'm going to come to another twist to this as we look at his relationship with the media, possibly from a positive note, if there is any. Dr. Ranesh, one of the things, though, that is clear is that when those who support the ANC are watching what is happening right now, whether be it's happening in plenary, whether it's, as Iman describes it, a fireside chat that we just had, or with different interviews outside, all of it is happening in the context of 2024, which we cannot not think about.
I think, Bongiwe, very importantly, remember this conference is happening in the context of a few months before the ANC officially goes on a massive campaign. If you take your minds back to 2019, okay, 2019 was kind of safe, but the 2021 local government elections campaigning rules weren't as normal because we had COVID, mass kind of rallies that the ANC normally relies on, those door-to-door meetings that the ANC normally has with their supporters weren't, full on show like the ANC normally does. So this time around, the ANC has to throw forward to 2024. The leadership that they choose here is going to be absolutely important, and the resolutions that they adopt here at conference, at this 5-day conference, is going to be quite significant, because those policies, those resolutions are eventually going to seep into that election manifesto. But remember 2024 also, remember every 5 years the voters' roll is changing, and even the president, the ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa, commented the other day about young people being added to that voters' roll. Come 2024, more young people are going to be added to that voters' roll, and of course we have lots of other political parties also vying for that young vote, people 18 and over. But the issue for me is, the EFF also complain about this, they lamented about this, they've got a huge support amongst young voters or newer voters 18 and over. The problem or the challenge is registering those people to actually vote. If you register those voters, those people can actually change your electoral fortunes at the polling station, at the voting booth. But also very, very importantly, for the ANC especially, the ANC is becoming more of a rural party. And here we've got evidence to back it up. In the last local government elections that took place in November last year, what happened? They lost 6 metros. They did even worse than 2016. 2016, I think it was almost 4. They were almost on knife's edge with a couple in terms of coalitions. But 2024, it's going to be even more serious for them. And importantly also, significantly also, we had coalition governments in local elections. That is going to spill over to national and provincial elections. And remember, in the metros, the 8 metros that we have in South Africa, we have the urban middle classes. These are people who are very technologically savvy, they're highly literate, they stay behind gated communities, and those communities are not accessible to the ANC support base or the ANC leadership, so to speak, because even the ANC in their Secretary General reports, they complain about not accessing those audiences. And just to blow my own trumpet here, my PhD actually focused on the ANC and the DA in the 2016 local government elections, what they did right, what they did wrong. And I used Twitter. Twitter was an urban electioneering platform. How the DA actually they actually used Twitter to their advantage. They used massive negative campaigning against the ANC, and the ANC did not actually jump onto that bandwagon and actually exploit Twitter for the advantages that social media actually offer political parties. Plus, it's free. Plus, it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you can take it anywhere on your phones. So I think going into 2024, the ANC has to actually play a huge catch-up game. Look at other political parties, what they are doing. Also, the other issue for me is independent candidates. The electoral amendment bill could possibly bring independent candidates that might take vote share away from parties like the ANC, away from parties like the EFF and DA and the like. Yeah.
Especially, when you think about how, in some instances, as you say, they failed to use technology, but also looking at the electoral decline that the president also talks about. But is also accused, together with his NEC, by even the Gauteng chair of the ANC, to say you've done nothing to help us when, as a party, we lost 6 metros and Stembiso. That's essentially at the heart of it, right? That the ANC, as it says through its president as well, that they're trying to get these young people, but young people on Twitter are saying something differently, Stembiso.
That's correct, Bongi. We have been reflecting on that the current ANC president, in his political report, he spoke about the importance of young people being part of the ANC and the voter turnout in between as we're going to the national elections. And then you can tell that there's really a good need for them to have young people. At the same time, you recall that Pulemabe himself, he was part of the ANC Youth League, and hence he was giving that background, making reference in between. And while we're still talking about Pulemabe, the character in terms of who he is, I mean, one of the words that people have been using throughout the conferences that we've been having is that arrogant, right? And we pull out those tweets. One of those tweets were from Black Queen, who was basically saying, Pulemabe, at this point in time in this conference, they are predicting and saying his arrogance, as I quote, is fading, you know, because they're projecting that his late might be, of course, losing. In between, also about his posture between the conference, you know, there's a moment where there was load shedding, and on social media, people commenting on that, how he was articulating himself in between. As you can see there on social media, one social media reflecting on him as we move to another one. But Bongi, yes, there might be negative things that have been said about Pule in terms of him being a spokesperson, but without a shadow of a doubt, there are goods that he has that one can articulate. And I want to ask you, in your experience as a journalist and now an anchor, what are the good things or the good signs that you maybe recall or remember of Pulema, because he cannot be that bad?
It's not every day that an anchor turns around and becomes interviewed right on their show. Well, Stephen, I think having, spoken to Pule, one, I certainly hope at the back of what Dr. Ranesh is saying, that he's going to realize that young people on social media are not into monologues. But anyway, moving right along. I think that the thing for me would be when he takes your calls, no matter how difficult a conversation is, and he doesn't shy away from coming in on air to also talk about, those very difficult issues. And I suppose that would then balance it out. But as you say, you're asking me for the positives. I'm not going to give you the other side. I will stay with your question and what you've asked me. So I think for me, taking the bull by the horn sometimes and coming into a studio when I've even had some difficult conversations with him, and he always would say to me, no, wait, let me finish my point. And I'm like, no, I need to ask you the next one. So I suppose that level of patience sometimes, but hey, the monologues, I suppose, even as Twitter says, they may need to go, especially if you are going to look at attracting a lot more young people. They also don't want to feel like they're being talked down to. They want to be part of the conversation, I suppose.
No, definitely. And I think also adding to that, I think maybe there are lessons that can be learned whoever will be the next ANC spokesperson, in terms of understanding the institutional memory of the ANC. We all know the ANC is a ruling party. It has been there for years. At the same time, understanding that, I think for me, Dr. Roche, bringing you there, I think it's that it's very important that there are lessons, from the previous spokesperson to Pulemabe in between.
Yeah.
And very briefly, we're out of time.
Okay, obviously the previous spokesperson was Zizi Kodwa. Remember, both of them are politicians, firstly, and both are paid spin doctors. So that is very, very instrumental. You got to remember that in the background.
Leave your head spinning. Thank you so much, you both, for your time. And on that note, of course, we just had the mic turned to me, being interviewed by Stembiso, and really being put on the spot. But it's always great to look at social media and the sentiment it provides, because this is also one way to feel the pulse of some of those users who are there and who, for them, really you get to understand what's going on in their minds. And that's where we leave it for now, and we'll continue to monitor developments here for you at Nasrec.